Cool. So we tack this one on at the very end. We'll wrap up our show with this. This is also in news and politics. I find it to be a pretty funny story. Obviously, not for the potential victim, but because of the dweeb that's at the center of it. This is a story about Florida Congressman Matthew Gaetz. He is the son of a wealthy guy who was also, I think, a congressman at some point. This is him.
Oh, so nepotism. Okay.
Yeah, this is him at CPAC, talking about how Trump is the best thing since sliced bread. And I don't know what happened to him. I don't know whether he did like Botox or what he's doing, but he looks odd. Anyway, I didn't put up his picture to bash him. I put up his picture to talk about the breaking news that came out of the New York Times on the 30th of March, which was yesterday. So Rachel Maddow did a really good segment on this guy who was the tax commissioner in Seminole County, Florida. And basically, this guy, as soon as he was elected, so he got married about 2 weeks before his election. As soon as he was elected, his groomsmen became his staff at the county office. He then bought a bunch of guns for all of them and asked them to bring in their guns and their badge every time they come to work. Weird guy. And then he started like he started pulling over people, and like he would flash his tax commissioner's badge, but like really quickly, so it looks like a sheriff's badge. Just a really strange guy, right? So anyway, he started doing this thing where, if you move in from another state to Florida, or in this case Florida, you have to turn in your old license to get a new one, right? So they would punch a hole in it and say void. I guess in Florida they actually take your old license, so they have this tray of like old licenses that they would take, and then they're supposed to shred them. Well, this guy was taking licenses from there and creating fake IDs and using those fake IDs to buy guns and to do other things like traffic. Yeah, this guy's a mess, basically, right? So he then bought a bunch of servers and put them in this one place. But he like made the servers, he installed them wrong. It caused a fire, burned down the place. All this stuff led to him being investigated. So when they started investigating him, they found that this guy was involved in basically trafficking, like sex trafficking.
Yeah.
And this guy has a lot of like pictures where he's like really showing that he's like really good friends with Roger Stone. Even has a picture of Matt Gaetz. Like he's very buddy with these people. But anyway, he was put in jail last June, and then he got out on bail, and then he was put in jail again for violating the terms of his bail. Well, the New York Times started doing a story on this guy, and they found that in connection to this guy, to this whole sex trafficking thing that this guy has done, there is a connection to Matt Gaetz. And so they published a story about it. So Matt Gaetz, in damage control mode, starts tweeting incessantly about, this is
very tough.
This is a hit job, yada yada. And then in one of the weirdest things, he goes and says that this guy who works at the Justice Department is trying to extort his family for $25 million. And he's basically saying that, we will put out information of this sex trafficking thing or whatever, of you having relations with a 17-year-old girl, if you don't pay us $25 million. And so Matt Gaetz' dad was supposed to wear a wire and have conversations with this guy, and he's asking the FBI to put out this wire or put out the recordings of this.
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing is, if this guy is extorting you for that he's going to put out information about a sex trafficking allegation about you, then that means that there are sex trafficking allegations about you. That's the part that he doesn't seem to get. But by saying that he's being extorted, that has nothing to do with the fact that you've been sleeping with a 17-year-old girl, right? So he goes on he goes to Tucker Carlson yesterday, and he starts talking about this frantic. And then he starts saying, first of all, he keeps calling her a 17-year-old woman, which is weird. Like, why are you doing that? Secondly, he tells Tucker Carlson, well, I'm not the only guy on the screen here that's been falsely accused of sexual assault. And then Tucker Carlson is like, what?
Oh, so they're eating each other alive. I'm cool with that.
Right. And then Tucker was like, well, what you're referencing is this like a mentally unstable person that accused me of this, a long time ago. There's like probably 90% of Tucker's viewers that don't even know that ever happened, and now they do because of this guy. And then Matt Gaetz then goes into another story about there was this friend of mine that I brought over with my wife and this friend, because I think you used to be married. I don't know if he's still married. Me, my wife, and this friend. 2 years ago, we came over to your house, or to this party with you, and yeah, you remember her. And then they try to make her say that I did something, blah blah blah. And then you can see Tucker the entire time, like, dude, why do you keep trying to implicate me in things? Tucker was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't remember. So anyway, so the interview ended. They went on break. Tucker comes back. He's like, that was one of the weirdest interviews I've ever done. I still don't know any answers and this and that. But the whole story is bonkers. And yeah, I like to see the walls come in and all these like MAGA heads,
Yeah.
who spent years defending a criminal enterprise just to find out that they themselves too are involved in criminal stuff. So yeah, this is a fun one for me. I want to see how this ends, and I don't want to dismiss the fact that there is a minor involved in this story that may have been a victim of this douchebag. But if he did do it, I would love for him to go down pretty hard. So
the sad part is, though, Zino he's on the conservative wing. He might not even go down, even if it turns out to be true, unless he gets arrested.
Exactly. I mean, he could go down criminally. Then doesn't matter how much wrist slapping Kevin McCarthy wants to do.
But wasn't there a guy who was recently elected who was a statutory rapist?
No. He won the Republican primary, but he lost. You're talking about the guy that Doug Jones beat. I forget the guy's name. Whatever, him.
Yeah, but anyways, but even then, so definitely has to be arrested. Matt Gaetz looks like the generic version of. He just looks like what's his name? Ted Kennedy would look like as a sleazeball.
Sleazeball Kennedy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no offense to Ted Kennedy, God rest his soul, but he looks like a Ted Kennedy as a sleazeball. Anyway, and he is a sleazeball. He takes from the Trump playbook, and not frequent. The thing is, though, does he have the charisma of Trump to get past these things? I don't think he does.
He thinks he does. Like, this is the guy that went to Wisconsin, is it Wyoming, to campaign against Liz Cheney, because Liz Cheney voted to impeach Trump. And he went there and started telling people that she doesn't speak for you anymore. And then, like, he's in front of like the state house over there, and then he has a mic, and then he puts his phone to the mic because Donald Trump Jr. is on the call. And it's like, oh, look, my friend Trump Jr. is on the call. Look, let me speak to you. Like the whole sycophancy of them, they're all just disgusting people. And if they can go down for legitimate criminal reasons, good. I'm tired of them. No sympathy whatsoever. I mean, he's the worst. He was always on par with me with Devin Nunes and Jim Jordan as far as the House Republicans go. But he's the worst of the three. He's just a goober. So yes, this story makes me happy. If it means the downfall of Matt Gaetz.
All right. So listen, let's not end it on this D-bag.
Okay.
Let's end it on a positive note. So this is the completion of our very first podcast recording, right? I mean,
Yeah.
this is the first.
Well, we've uploaded the other episodes.
When we said this is a podcast of two guys, we were being truthful this time. Before it was like, this is a podcast. Now it's definitely a podcast. So just real quickly, I want to say is, man, I'm very happy about this. This is awesome. This is what both you and I set out to do when we started this thing. It became a YouTube show. Now it's a podcast. Keep in mind though, please still visit our YouTube channel, because our YouTube channel will still have a lot of things that we won't have on the podcast, i.e. our MCU reviews, because we're going to keep those on the YouTube show, just because the problem with podcasts is when we release them, it takes a little while for them to load up, maybe a day or two to finally get down. Whereas when we do the recordings for the YouTube show, it's that day.
Yeah. And
those are just short clips. So please go to ZZ Talk with Zeus and Zino on YouTube. Check us out. Subscribe, subscribe to this YouTube, to this podcast. Text it to your friends, because you can. Can you text it? Yeah, I think you can. share to your friends and get people to listen and stuff like that, man. Real quickly, man, give me a quick. How do you feel about the fact that this is our podcast 2.0?
Oh, I like it. I like knowing going into this that it is officially a podcast. I'll get to editing right when we're done, and I'll first edit it as a podcast, then as videos. Yeah, it's cool. It's good, and onwards and upwards. Episode 20. Also episode 2.0. All right, like, share, and subscribe, and that's a wrap.